checked it yet. I'm not sure whether Jimmy and others have managed to go through it, but I have not seen it yet. But I will do that definitely.
Actually, this is the first time we are doing this type of assignment
Right, right.
publicly, and then we are putting
Okay.
on. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. Good,
Hmm.
nice experience.
Yes, sir. You may continue now.
Okay, so just to repeat what I said earlier, this session is specifically organized to clarify any questions, doubts that you have about the graded assignment 2, which is the schematic map, hometown map assignment, and then we will also take up any questions that you have about the first quiz, which is due in 2 weeks' time, less than 2 weeks' time, about 1.5 weeks' time, 26th of February. Okay, so I'll just start with some of the questions that has already been asked. Okay, so just to get started, and we can join in for others. So the first question was, which tool is appropriate for drawing the schematic map? Okay, so now I understand that many of you would not have worked with a drawing tool such as a Photoshop or a Illustrator, right? Please, raise your hand if you have worked with Photoshop or for Adobe Illustrator, any of this Adobe graphic design software. If you have used it, you can raise your hand. It's a very common tool. A lot of students use it. But if you have not used it, it is all right. And it's also commercial software, right? It means that you have to pay and buy it, and now it is converted into a subscription model. Now it's become very expensive. So I have three alternative software that I have worked with over time. There are many of them. So three very good software that are as good as Photoshop and Illustrator. And I'm going to share that with you here on the screen briefly for a moment. Okay, so can you see my notepad?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's so I don't want to confuse you with too many options. So the first one is called Krita. Okay, now this is almost like a Photoshop clone. So which means that if somebody is planning to switch between Photoshop to a newer software or a freer software, then this is a good tool. But if you have not worked with Photoshop, that's all right. I mean, this is very easy to learn. It's very intuitive graphical user interface. So if you have used MS Paint or something like that, which comes as a free software along with Windows, or some kind of a painting software that if you use Mac or something like that, this is slightly an advanced version of that. Okay, so it allows you to work in layers, right? You can create any number of layers, right? So for example, in a map schematic map assignment, right, after you have decided on which portion of the city or a town that you want to take up and abstract, you will have to trace it from an existing map such as a Google map or a OpenStreetMap, right? So you can screenshot the portion, you can zoom it to the level that you want in your window, in one of the windows, and then screenshot it and then import it as one of the layers. You can just bring it, you can just copy and paste it also is fine, right? You can just copy screen and paste it. It just copies automatically in one layer, right? And then you can create a layer over it. It is like putting a tracing paper on a image, right? As children, you would have done this yourself, right? You can put a tracing paper on top of an existing picture and then you will trace over the edges, right? It's a very similar kind of a thing. Only thing, the layer that you place over it will be completely transparent, like it is totally transparent. But as you draw using one of the drawing tools, there is pencil, pens, brushes, all kinds of tools on the left toolbox will be available to you. You can just pick up anyone that you're comfortable with, and you can use your mouse to trace it also, right? So if you're not very good at tracing it, then if you have a stylus like a pen or something, your control becomes better. Again, if you're using like a tablet or something, it is easier with a stylus tracing these things, right? So that's what, so basically it allows you to trace something into a new thing, and you can also create other layers for other things. Say, for example, if you're creating icons, you can put them in one layer. If you're creating labels, you can put it in another layer. So the advantage is that you can rearrange these elements as you see fit eventually, right? Because you don't have to, because if you put everything in one layer, if you want to move one of these elements this way, that way, you want to make the icon slightly bigger, then it's very hard to do it, right? But if they are in a separate layer, then you just go to that layer only and then enlarge the icon, for example. Nothing else, the other layers does not get affected. For example, you put all the labels in one layer, right? Labels like, the name of the road, any prominent landmarks are also marked, school, hospital, for example, all these things are marked as text labels, right? Now you're not happy with the font that you have used, okay? Then you want to change it from Arial to Helvetica, for example, right? Now you can just go to that layer, select all the text, and then change the font. Automatically, everything gets changed, and your image doesn't get affected at all. You can try these variations, right? Because these kinds of things, there is nothing like a correct font to be used. Okay, there is nothing like Arial is the font you choose or Helvetica is the. So depending on the situation, many fonts will work, and you don't know which font will work the best until you try out a few options, right? So typically what a designer will do is they'll have 5 or 6 fonts and try out each of those fonts. And because the changing of these fonts is so easy, you can just very quickly change these fonts and then see which one works best, which size works best, what color of the font, whether you want to use a black text or some other kind of a colored text, whatever it is, right? So all those variations, can be tried very easily if you work in these kinds of layers, right? So Krita is a software that I would recommend. I've used it myself. So it's very powerful. You can create both vector images as well as uh, raster images, right? So you know the difference between the vector image and a raster image. So can somebody tell me what is the difference between a vector image and a raster image? Yes, please go ahead. Who is that? Just a minute.
It's Kunal.
Yeah, Kunal, please go ahead. Kunal.
Sir, raster images store image data as individual pixel values,
Right.
but vector images stores image data as shapes along with stroke values, fill values, and all, like mostly SVG or XML data.
Correct, right? So SVG, for example, is vector or raster? SVG file format.
It's a vector format, sir.
Right, right. So exactly what Kunal said, right? A raster image is expressed in terms of pixels. Okay, a pixel present or a pixel absent, right? So most of the photographs, in fact, all of the photographs are raster images, right? Which is why, when you take a small photographs and try to enlarge it, the quality deteriorates, right? You will remember, say for example, you have an old photograph, you scan it or take a picture of it and you want to enlarge it, then it doesn't look as good in an enlarged image because you're just expanding the pixel value to occupy more space only, right? So the quality will deteriorate. So the image is described as pixels, right? And each pixel carries some information, color information, position information, all those things, right? So it doesn't scale well. So it is, you can't do much manipulation with it, right? A vector image, on the other hand, is a mathematically described rendering of an equation. So, for example, a circle, right? If you draw a circle as a raster image, you're putting pixels along the circumference of the circle, right? So that is how you would draw a raster circle. A vector circle, you will just tell the computer that you draw a circle with this much amount of thickness with this radius, and the color value, you describe it as mathematically some value, and then background color, everything. So which means that manipulating it easy. So if you enlarge it, you're just modifying the formula that generates the circle, right? Similarly, any curve, right? Anything. So it's always good to create your images as vector images, because it allows for easy editing and easy scaling up, scaling down, and you can also change the attributes very easily, right? For example, you don't like the thickness of the circle, you can increase it very easily or decrease it very easily. If you draw, for example, roads in your map with say 2 pixels or 3 pixels wide, and if you think that they are not so prominent, you want to make them more prominent, you want to increase it by 4 pixels or something, you just increase the value, then overall it gets changed. Okay, so Krita can do both, right? So it creates both, creates and allows you to manipulate both vector and raster images. Okay, so think of photographs as raster images, any kind of diagrams as uh, vector image. Okay, so SVG files that you see mostly in the web-based visualizations are all vectors. So they also occupy very little space. They occupy space, meaning that in terms of the bytes, right? The storage, in order to define a vector image, it contains too much of information. Describe a raster image, you need to have a lot of memory to store that. Vector image on the other end shows very, so which is why it is faster to load, faster to render on the screen, and then it can easily adapt to your screen size. It will automatically resize depending on what kind of screen are you viewing it in. If you're viewing it in mobile screen, it will resize to smaller size. If you're viewing it on a large monitor, it will automatically expand to occupy the space and all that. Okay. So, creating any kind of visualization as a vector is always a good idea. Okay, and Krita allows you to do that. In Adobe graphic design tools, you need two software to do it: Photoshop, for your raster images, and Illustrator for the vector images. But in Krita, both of them you can do in the same software. Okay, and the second tool is Inkscape, which is also free. Very similar capabilities. I personally have not worked with this software, but a lot of my students use this software and they swear by it. Okay, they say that it is as good as anything commercially available, as good as Krita also. Okay, and the third one is GIMP. You might have heard about it because it has been around for a very long time. Krita, Inkscape and all came very recently, but GIMP has been around for more than 20 years. And so it is also free and open source software. And the only disadvantage I find with GIMP is that its user interface is not very intuitive. Okay, so it is a bit hard to learn it, and it's a bit confusing, especially after, if you use very, very easy to use software, it's slightly harder, but it's also becoming very powerful. It used to be very bare minimum, but they have improved a lot, and it has a lot of features. It's kind of almost all the features, everything that you can do with Photoshop or Illustrator, you can do it with GIMP also. So, there are lots of tutorials, video tutorials and stuff like that, to get to a basic level of using this software, spending a few hours just watching the tutorials and following along to do some exercises will get you up to speed on that. Okay. Now, this is one thing that a lot of data visualization students, especially if you're not from a design background, think that they don't need it. Okay, so I know coding, I understand how to do visualizations, but ultimately you will have to be able to present them in a aesthetically pleasing manner, right? Unless you master at least one of these graphic design tools, you will never be able to produce really good visualizations, right? If you're just only relying on Tableau or Excel or any one of those visualization tools only, you will not be able to make a compelling presentation, because eventually you will have to use a graphic design software to pull them all together, compose them together in a page or things like that. So knowing a graphic design tool such as any one of them is an added bonus, right? It's like very, very useful to have. And these are not very difficult to use, If you know how to use PowerPoint or something like that, it is slightly more complex than that. That's all. It's all menu driven, menu, sub-menus. Otherwise, there is lots of tool palettes available on the screen, and it is very intuitive for you to figure out how to do this. Okay, so there was a question, somebody raised the answer. Yes, please go ahead.
What about using Canva? Canva is okay?
Yes, Canva is also good. Yeah, you can use Canva. That's good. Now, if you're already used to some existing software, you're familiar with it, you don't have to invest additional time learning a new software.
I mean, Canva produces both raster and
Yes, raster and vector.
okay.
Okay, so just note it down. These three, you can Google these three names. You will take, you will get to the site. You will be able to download it and then install it and try it out. Okay. I'm just going to stop presenting it. Okay, so that is the first question. Okay, so the second one is it acceptable to draw the map using pen and paper? Okay, so initially as you're developing your ideas, right, of abstraction, it is good to work on pen and paper. Okay, but ultimately if you want to create a digital map, right, and therefore you'll have to, your final output has to be in digital nature, because you will never be able to get the kind of finish that we want to see by hand. It is very hard unless you're a professional draftsman or extremely good at illustration or something like that. It will look very sketchy. It will look like just an idea illustration and never as a finished schematic map. Okay, and you should also think of this as an opportunity to learn something new, try out something new. If you've never used any of these graphic design tools, maybe just give it a shot. Okay, to whatever level you can learn, it is fine. Okay, so it is not about reaching full amount of proficiency in order to produce some of the, like for some of the examples that I've shown with my students. These students have been working on this software for a very long time, so they are very proficient in using them. So it is some of them are really very nicely finished, right? But to whatever capacity you can learn, use this as an opportunity to create the final output in the digital. Create a digital output as a final submission. Okay, the third question was, can the previous 30-day travel map be utilized for this assignment? Yes, you can use it. That's a very good idea, actually, if I think about it, right? Because I mean, the map can be about anything. Only problem is that it will be all over the place. Okay, if you are somebody who travels from Chennai to Bangalore to Delhi to Kolkata and all this kind of thing, I mean, how will you, even this? So it becomes a very big map to handle. Okay, which is why I suggested that use a geographical area which is compacted. So if you live in a very big city like Chennai or Bangalore, they are very big to deal at that scale. So even then, no, I would ask you to focus on one small neighborhood, one area within the city, or only few elements in the city. If you want to take the entire city and then you want to just highlight tourist places or areas which are very good for shopping or for or where the temples are located, right? If that city is known for its temples or whatever it is, right? So either in terms of the data that you're dealing with, it is manageably small, or the geographical area itself is small. Okay, so do not take a geographical area which is very big and which contains too much of data and then becomes very hard to create a schematic map. So if you want to do this 30-day travel map, you can go ahead and do it only if it is in a smaller gap. So if it is something that within the city, the 30 days wherever I have traveled, then it is okay, because it will be geographically confined to only the city. And if you have traveled outside the city, you can leave out that. Okay. So whatever you did within the last 30 days, and if you can get that data from your mobile phone or somewhere, right, which tracks your movement, and then plot it, and then schematize it, and it will be nice exercise. I've not seen anybody do that kind of work, but see to that it doesn't becomes too complicated for you to handle. Okay. So is the person who asked this question here 30-day travel map?
Jaidev had asked the question, so I think
Okay.
he has not joined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then maybe we'll see the video, or if you.
Sir, one question. Sorry.
Yes, Mukesh, go ahead.
But when we start the initial for making any graph, so we can draw the by the hand, and after that we are going to impose in any either in the OSM or the Google Map, right?
Yeah.
So when we are going to submit the assignment, we need to give the handwritten, then a map, and then slowly we'll go to the abstraction level.
Yes.
So all the images we need to upload into graded assignment, which we have seen from the old student, right?
Yes, exactly the same format. So you just take a picture, use your phone. If you're drawing a sketch, right, on a piece of paper, just take a picture of it, and then upload it as a, image there, which will show the development of your ideas.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, understood.
Yeah. Okay. So the fourth question is, the learners want to know the extent of the area to be covered and the level of detail required. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier, right? So either you can take a large extent but fewer details, okay, or take a smaller extent but more details, right? So do not take a large extent and a lot of details, or a small area with less details. Then both of it, the earlier one, the first one is very complicated to handle. Then the map does not tell you anything, right? It just becomes like a Google map, right? Google map contains everything, right? We don't want to create a map of everything. For that, Google map already exists, OSM already exists, right? What we want to create is a single purpose map, right? So this map is about this only these things, right? So if you come to Chennai, what are the cultural spots of Chennai, right? What are the places that you need? These are probably the 10 places that you need to visit. If you're an outsider and you have 2 days to spend here, what are the places? So it only covers that. So the details are less, but it is for the entire city of Chennai. Or you can only focus on a small area in Chennai. For example, Mylapore is a area in Chennai, and it is a very old place, right? It's a place that people like Subramania Bharati, the poet, and Srinivasa Ramanujam, who's a mathematician, they all lived there, right? It's very close to the sea. It's walkable distance from the sea, so people would just walk to the sea, and evenings they would spend there. And there is a very famous temple there, which is also a place where a lot of people go every day, right? People who live in the city, and it has got some very famous eateries and all that. So it's a very traditionally old and historically significant place. So you only cover that area and then maybe locate some of the important details within that. So, for example, the Parsadi temple is there. You can mark this, very famous houses of people, houses of people, houses of very famous people who lived in that area. Although they don't live anymore there, somebody else is there. In fact, the houses are also not there anymore, right? Some other commercial building has come in that place. But it's a kind of a heritage area. It is now becoming modern, but you can it's just 2-3 streets which are the triplicate streets, and alone can be there. But it's rich in details, but only that area. And you can do it only if you are from that area, which is also why I specifically said that choose an area that you are extremely familiar with, right? And usually the town that you grew up in, the places that you spent a lot of time, especially in the childhood, growing up, until you went to college or something, is that kind of a place. You'll be very familiar with the place, right? You will know all the details of the place. You're like you're the insider, so therefore your information is going to be very authentic as well. So this is the balance you have to strike. You have to know whether you want to go for a large extent, less details, or you want to go for a small extent but packed with a lot more details. Okay, so both of them are determined by the complexity, right? Because the samples, some have submitted maps specific to locations like gurdwaras or colleges, the others have covered the entire city itself, right? So if you look at those maps, you will notice this. The variable is the details. Okay, if the variables are less, then the extent covered will be large. Okay, if the variables are more, then they're probably talking about a smaller extent. it would be helpful to explain the criteria for grading this. So the criteria is that, so if you see my assignment, there is a few steps that are there. Basically, we are going to just look at what are the steps, right? Whether you covered all the steps, to reach mm, the final schematic map, okay, and whether that schematic map ultimately satisfy the objective of what the title claims it to be. Okay, so these were the questions that were asked in the forum. So if there are any additional questions or any follow-up questions to these, please feel free to ask. Yes, please go ahead, Arya.
Sir, oh, oh,
Hello? Arya, we are not able to hear you.
hello, yeah, am I audible now? Better?
Yes, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying that for this course,
Mm-hmm.
like what kind of Solvit's instructor or what kind of interaction sessions wherein for other courses we usually have like solving some kind of assignments, questions, etc.
Uh-huh.
So for this, like, do we have anything planned for this course? Because this seems very different from other
Yes.
courses, right? So some kind of support would be very helpful in
Yeah,
this.
we will review this. So what we can do is, we can. So what I do with this course in my course here at IIT Bombay is that, I review the submissions, right, in the class, and we discuss, what how they, some of the submissions, what they did well, what they did not do well. So so that feedback process is the learning process in the assignment, right? Where otherwise you submit something and then you get some grade, you don't really know what you did well, why you got this particular grade, right? So we can have such sessions for the first assignment that you finished, and then the second graded assignment as well. So we may not be able to discuss every single one of them, but a lot of things will be repeated. You will notice that, as we discuss three or four, you will notice that some of this feedback is kind of repetitive in nature, right? So because you all either did something correctly or you all did something wrongly, right? So even if your specific submission did not get discussed in detail, just attending these discussion sessions, right, is very helpful.
Okay, and like for the second assignment that is there,
Hmm.
I think the one of the procedures that was mentioned was that we first draw sketch on the pen and paper, and then we translate it into OpenStreetMaps or Google Maps, or
Huh.
and then we take it into one layer of Krita or some other software, and then we visualize it. So, like just like I haven't really used any of this, so
Hmm.
like if for example like taking how do I translate my pen and paper sketch to OpenStreetMaps, or I mean just to highlight these
Hmm.
boundaries, etc.
Okay.
If some kind of resources can be suggested, because I did a quick Google search while in the meet itself, but
Uh-huh.
I wasn't finding how to translate
Hmm.
directly, or at least I didn't get it within the short span of time I spent. So
Yeah.
if something can be helped on those lines, then that will be great.
Hmm. Okay. So say for example, one demonstration session, if I organize it with a student of mine, for example, I'll pick one of the student good samples from a student who did that, and then ask that person to demonstrate how he or she went about doing that, Um and then you just watch it, and then maybe ask some questions along the way. Will that be helpful?
Yes, sir, that will be great, sir. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
As in also not just about the tool or what the procedure, I
Hmm.
mean, but also like how they thought about it. And
Hmm.
I mean, just mapping and like this visualization designing thing is something very different from the technical
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
So,
Right, right,
so I
right.
mean, just to, like just to get into the flow of things, if we can
Hmm.
talk to someone, get into some live presentations, demo sessions, step by step what they did, create something in front of us, that will be great. Like,
Okay.
because
So
we haven't had too many interactions as well as far as like the presentations or anything is concerned. And
mm,
the lectures, like they were showing slides one after the other, like we can understand that. I mean,
mm,
it's like we can interpret the visualization that is shown there, but
mm,
to make a visualization of our own is a different ball game in my opinion. So
mm.
I mean, that's just the feeling that I have from the course.
Okay. Yeah, so this is also the first time this course is also run entirely in online mode, right? Uh, without the support of the regular face-to-face interactions that we have. Even during the lockdown, when we had this when I was running this course in IIT Bombay, there was a lot of almost all the sessions were live sessions, including the lectures. So there was a lot of interactions that was going on, but because of the nature of this course itself, right? And I mean the nature of the course, the BS course, the way that it is being conceived, right? And it doesn't, there are the room for such kind of extensive interaction does not exist now as part of the design of the course itself, right? So we will do whatever we can do, to enhance that experience. So let me see, how quickly I can do this, because this assignment is due by the end of this week, right? So if at all there is live session, live demo session, it has to be organized in the next couple of days. So how are you guys placed, say tomorrow, day after tomorrow? Say if I organize one session, say on Thursday evening around the same time, would you be able to make it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thursday is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I can make it as well.
I mean, post 7 p.m. is fine for working professional also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
That,
mean that's also limitation, right? So we will be able to do it only from in this slot, like 8 to 9 slot, right? So
yeah, that will be helpful, sir. Yeah.
Jimmy, what do you think about it?
Yes, sir, it would be good.
Hmm.
And regarding the assignment date, like we can push like a 2-3 days, something like that we can do.
Yeah, we can give some additional time. We can
Yeah.
push the deadline a little bit. Yes, Kunal, please go ahead.
Sir, I have a question regarding the assignment itself. So I saw the link on the graded like assignment page. There is a link to the previous assignment submissions, I guess, from GitHub. There, I saw one submission which talked about student exchange locations in Tel Aviv in Israel. So, doing those, like, is it necessary to just target our hometowns or maybe some city in India, or is it okay if we do something which is more interesting if we found some place which is international?
I mean, if the only criteria is that you live there long enough to understand the place really well, and therefore you have some claim to authority in terms of what you're presenting in information, right? So that is a very unusual thing, right? The Tel Aviv student experience. That's not something typically that I would encourage in this assignment, but because the student was very keen on saying that, doing that, because she said I spent 6 months there, and this is the kind of information that I was looking for when I went as a student, but it was not there. Okay, so if I create this schematic map, then it will become useful for students like me who go there, because this was not there. No, now this is the information that I'm going to present is something that I have gathered and experienced over 6 months of time, and therefore it will be very useful to. So in that sense, I kind of permitted her to do that, right? But otherwise, no, I would encourage people to take up something that they are very familiar with it, right? If you've been to a place like a tourist, spent a couple of days, and that probably would not qualify as a good place. I would not accept that you know the place really well to market schematically. But if you think that I've lived there, or I've spent enough time over there, I can contribute, create a map that will be useful to somebody, then yeah, you can go ahead with it.
Okay, sir. And sir, I have one more doubt regarding this hand drawing step for the assignment. So, does the assignment have to go through a rigorous hand drawing thing? Because I think I'm more comfortable drawing digitally first.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
is
okay.
that
That's okay. That is okay. You want to straight away start with a digital drawing, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you can. So what by sketching is that, I mean, sketching can be with, on a pencil, on a paper with a pencil, or it can be also directly on the screen itself, right? So it doesn't matter. But the process behind is that it's, if you straight away start, there is a gradual process of abstracting it out, right? So first it will contain a lot of details, then you'll have to start slowly eliminating the less important parts of it, right? So a schematic map is a selective presentation of geographical information, right? It is not the complete presentation of the geographic information, and also it's a notional representation of how things are organized spatially, right? And it is not accurate. So, for example, the distances are not accurate to the geographical distances, right? So, a schematic map of a metro line, for example, does not tell you what is the exact kilometer distance between each station, right? Because the stations are equally spaced, right? It only tells you what station comes after this station, and then what station comes after that station. Or if you want to change train to go to a different station, which is the place that you need to get out, right? So in terms of that, it is extremely useful, right? So it is leaving out, right? So a schematic map is as much about leaving things out than putting things in. Okay, so your ability to leave out things that are not central to what you want to communicate is a extremely important skill. Okay, in fact, that would be one of the most important evaluation criteria also, right? If you create a map about something and then you have a lot of information that is completely unrelated to it, but it is cluttering the map, then that means that you have not understood how to create a good schematic map, right? So this process of gradually moving from a lot of details to less details to an abstraction, right, requires a step-by-step process, and it doesn't happen in one single step, right? If it happens in one single step, it is probably missing a lot of information, including the information that is useful to it, right? So a careful deselection happens, right? A careful selection and deselection happens along the way, and we want to see that process, right? If you document that, and then it becomes evident that you've gone through this process, right? Which is why we insist on sketches at the stages. Okay, so it's okay that you do it as digital sketches. It is fine.
Okay, sir. I understood.
Yes, Kumar Chandan.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I have a few more question, means 7, 8 question, small question I have.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So first question, sir, will you explain something programmatically to achieve this task? Like that in the lecture you told that we have a D3 map box or something. So if some student is comfortable with to handle the programmatically, so that is that one question.
Okay, so this question is not programmatically done, right? It's actually carefully manually done. Okay, so there will be opportunities for you to create geographic visualization later on. Not in this part of this, as part of this course, but other part of other courses, or in your professional work. But where you will be programmatically able to generate these abstractions also, right? Not just only populating graphs, maps with data, but in this exercise is that this exercise is about a manual process of abstraction, right? From an accurate geographical map, how do you reach a schematic map? Okay. So for this assignment, we want you to do a manual abstraction process. Okay, you can move on to the next question.
So all is about that only. So I think I have to stop here.
Yeah. So don't. Say okay. So just I'm curious. What do you have in mind when you say can it be done programmatically?
Yeah, so sir, as you told that we can have that to take some picture and we can highlight it of our interest. And so if there is a also I can take a download that map from that some map provider, and we can highlight that all the things like you told that highlight the river or highlight the road. That also we can do through using the D3JS. That some on the top of the layer, like you told that the layer there. So if Mapbox is providing some JSON data, then on the top of I can do. So instead of making that manually drawing this point and point, making highlight, just few line code I can highlight also this point.
But
And
your map remains the same, right? It remains as a geographically accurate map only. The
yes,
geography does not get abstracted, right? So, for example, the roads are curving and winding and all that. They are not abstracted, right? In any way, right?
yes, yes,
Distances remain accurate and all that. So, what you're doing is only using some language, right? You're querying and filtering, right? That's what you're saying, right? By highlighting, that's what you're meaning, right? You're
right,
saying that just now show me only areas marked as roads or marked as temples, right?
right,
Then it gets all highlighted, right? Now
right,
show me because the map box it runs on a code in the back end. It is easy to filter out that and say that anything that has been tagged as hospitals will be highlighted differently, right?
yes,
All roads that are marked as expressways or or highways will be highlighted differently, right? Now that is not abstraction, right? That's not schematizing a map, right? It is only you're just using a program to filter out information that you want, okay?
okay,
And that is not the purpose of this assignment.
okay.
Yeah.
And one
See,
more
if you want to, use some program to see, for example, you don't know yourself about your town, right? Like,
yes,
how many temples are there in your city, right? And then you want to write a code to just filter out the temples in your city, then you can use it. But ultimately, what I'm looking for is not whether you have correctly identified all the temples or not, okay? Even if you leave out a few temples, that's okay by me, right? But it is your personal choice of the temples, right? What you think are the temples that you want to visit, that people should visit, okay? If somebody comes to your house, somebody comes to your town or a city, and they are interested in visiting the temples, the famous temples in your city, they are asking you, right, to give you some personal recommendation, right? They're telling you, now, okay, Kumar, I have this 2 days, I want to visit like 3 or 4 temples, tell me what are the temples that I should be visiting, right? And it is like you are saying this, right? So it's a kind of your personal opinion on what should be on the map, right? So there is a editorial element to it, okay? This is not what is considered to be the correct. Okay, so I'm not looking for accuracy of representation, right? So if you create a educational institution map of a town, I'm not going to check whether you have correctly captured all of them, right? But you've captured some of them, but what you have done that you have represented them in an abstract form.
okay, okay, sir.
Yes, Chandan, you raised your question hand again. You have another question?
No, sir. So the thing was that so we will study more about that geographical mapping later in the later week.
No, this is the only lecture. The lecture 3 was about geovisualization, and we are doing this assignment only in this part. Eventually, for the project, you can, or in another assignment, right? You can use a map, to visualize some data related to some geographical data on a map. Okay,
Okay.
that depend on the data. Yeah.
So few question can I ask her related to map only?
Yeah. Sure.
So whenever we say that drawing the map, so there is a many provider out of that in the map. Is that all provider is the same type of data? Is that or different type of his own data is there? So like that we talk about the Google Map, or OpenStreet.
Yeah. So it is all, they all are proprietary data, right? So these map providers have collected this data and they own this data, right? So, and we think that Google Map is free, right? Because you just type anything and it gives you anything. So for the very end user like me and you, the map is free. And because we also provide so much of data in return to Google, they are allowing us to use it, right? Because nobody uses it, the map does not become more accurate or not, right? So the user's interaction with the map actually makes the map better. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So so there is a kind of a give and take relationship between the end users like us and a company like Google Maps, right? So, but where Google makes money is that selling the map and the map data to companies, right, that want to incorporate it as part of their services, right? So Swiggy, for example, buys map data from Google, right, and they have to pay like a huge amount of money, right? They pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, in subscription fees. For using Google Maps, right, on a commercial basis, because that is the map that is shown in your app when you order a food. That is a map that powers the riders, and then delivery people, logistics, everything, no? Right. So that is how they make the money. So Mapbox similarly, right? All this S3, for example, is another big data company.
Right.
So all these companies, own this data themselves, and then they're kind of selling this data, and therefore the data is also different, right? So some of them will boast about very specific kind of data that other companies don't have it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And what you see in the commercial front end as a user is that only some, for example, as a user of Google Maps, we see very little information. There is so much more information that Google has that can be layered there, which will become more useful to companies which are using it for specific services.
Okay, yes, that's possible.
Yeah.
So one more question on top of that. Whenever that we take that populate the map data, so what is the basic layer of that? Because Google, if they sell that company data, they specialize, they put more layer to benefit that particular company. But whenever I talk about that free provider data, so they also put the some building, some temple by default on the tiles of the layer. So when we zoom out, so 4 tiles it become the 8 and 16 tiles. So next level, so they pop up that some that picture also. So is it possible I can remove all the picture, and if I want to in Bangalore I want to highlight only the institutes, then everything will be vanished. Only institute is there. Is it
Yes,
possible?
yes. In Google Maps, you cannot do that, but in the commercial the versions that you have, no, you cannot do that. But if you buy the paid version, right, and there are different levels of access that you get, right?
Okay.
So we'll allow you to customize these maps, and then you can build your own maps out of that, right? But as the very end user, like you and me using Google Maps, we cannot customize any of these things.
Okay, so
But
leaflet.
Mapbox allows a certain amount of customization even for users like us. Okay, you can style the maps, you can remove certain layers, you can also change certain layers to look differently and all that. But Google Map does not allow you to do anything.
Okay.
If you have a commercial license, then you will be allowed to do different things with it.
Okay, so even we can remove that all the picture means
Yes,
they
yes.
highlighted the temple or
Yeah,
anything
correct.
institute is there. Okay. Yeah, many things is got clear.
Sure. Okay,
Yes.
glad.
Thanks.
Yes, Arya.
So the query for this assignment, like you were saying that for the 30-day travel is kind of also allowed. I mean, so can we also make a visualization as in like we went to X place for work and then we went to the airport and we went to eat somewhere,
That's what. No, I mean
hospital as well.
it is not a fully informed thing, right? So I want to create a map that you know intimately, okay, of a place that you know intimately, right?
Yeah,
So this is like I mean, I go there, visit a city, stay there for 2-3 days. What do I know about this place, right? I don't know anything about this place. So I'm not going to be creating a very useful map of that place, except that it documents where you went. That's all. It's not a
Right, right.
document of where you went. It is not a document of. It is meant for somebody, right? If you notice all the samples there, it first tells you who it is meant for, right? In fact, one of the things that I have listed in the assignment description itself is that you should be able to identify who is this meant for, right? It is not a documentation of your travels, right? Google gives you this monthly update or something, right? It gives you a travel where all you've been, and then it'll show you on the map, right? That's not what we are looking for here, right? What we want to is that you're creating a schematic map that is helpful to somebody, right? It could be a student, it could be a visitor to the city, it could be a pilgrim coming here, it could be a person who's coming to your city to take treatment because your city has good medical facility, or a student coming to your city, to study in an institution because your city is full of great institutions, right? So that is what it is. Okay. So
Okay.
if you know the place more better, then you will be able to create a, a more useful map.
Okay, okay. I mean, the reason why I was asking this was like, I mean, I mean, it's like I don't visit too many places, but I
Hmm.
have a daily life, and like my parents visited me some months back.
Hmm.
So, I mean, as far as the use of a map, like the places that I frequent, where I go, where I don't, is like, let's say if I have some kind of emergency, or they want to
Hmm.
meet up with me, or they want to,
Hmm.
so they can use that kind of a
No,
map
no.
for themselves.
Where do
Does
you
that?
stay? I mean, you even wherever you are, right? However small the place is, even if you're the place that you travel around is or go is very limited, you can create a place like that, right? So there are students who just created the campus only, where they live. So it's a very small area geographically if you look at it, but it was full of details. So for example, one student just plotted only the places of where students hang out, or where are the places different foods are available, right? So if you want chai, coffee through the day, it is here. For late night, you go there, and very detailed information about. So that kind of map does not exist. If you go to Google Map, it will not tell you about all these things. So it's a kind of insider information, right? The student lived in the campus for 4 years, and they have all this very interesting tidbits and information that is captured in the map, right? So it's useful for students who will live here only. For outsiders, it is meaningless, right? So do not think
Yeah,
that there
okay.
are no opportunities there. Even if you live in a small locality and there are these few places that you visit around your locality, you go to your grocery shop, you go and get milk from one place, you go to your barber, for example, to cut your hair once in a month, whatever it is, that small area that you visit, if you map it very detailed, now that is a map that doesn't exist now, right? Because it is very localized map. But what you're doing is you're creating a very rich representation of data there.
Okay, okay.
Hmm? So I think you should not kind of stress out too much about what play, what tour, what do I draw, what do I represent. So just take anything, right? It's about how to make that representation interesting, right? You can take the most boring, mundane places and make it very interesting just by the amount of data and how you represent it. Okay, the challenge is in that, right? And not go and looking for what you think are probably interesting places, or places with a lot of very interesting data in them. Okay. Okay, so I will confirm. I have to talk to my students, see if their availability and all that. See if I can get somebody. So by tomorrow, I will confirm. By tomorrow evening, I will confirm whether we can. We are having this session on Thursday, right? I'll try to get somebody. Most likely, I should be able to get at least one student. I'm going to ask multiple people, so I'm hoping that at least one of them is available to do this demonstration. But keep your time available on Thursday evening, same time slot, 8 to 9, and I will confirm through Jimmy again. Okay, so yes, Rajan.
Yeah, sir. So just for understanding purpose, after completing this course, will you animate little bit about what will we achieving after doing this course? Just few lines so that I can comprehend.
The whole course you're talking about, or just this assignment?
No, the whole course.
Okay. So, see, somebody was mentioning whether it was Arya, I think, right, who said that, this is very unlike the kind of courses, the technical courses that you're taking, right? They're kind of very straightforward, there is some language to learn, some problem to solve, some ways of doing things, and, all of you do the same thing and so on. So this is, you think of it as a design course. And typically in a data science program, this kind of courses are not, I mean, even if they're taught, it will be about, there will be some lessons on one of the tools like Power BI and Tableau, or some programming language, or Python, visualization libraries and so on. And then they all end up creating terrible visualizations which are never insightful, never meaningful. They can be much better than what they are, right? So many data science programs have now realized that just having good coding skills is not enough to become a good visualizer, right? There should be sufficient inputs on perception, cognition, representation, right? How visuals work and how to create them and make them effective, right? And how does a narrative, right, a story behind visuals make for better presentations? And how can you persuade people, right? And ultimately, the visualization's purpose is that, right? You're enabling people to understand better. You're enabling people to see a particular insight that otherwise they cannot see. You're helping people to change other people's mind. You're helping people to solve complex analytical problems, right? But visually, so that they can do it faster, more accurately. So all these things, right, does not come about just because you know how to do coding, or just because how you know to use Tableau or a Power BI, right? These are just instrumental, right? Anybody can generate a graph using these kinds of things, but is that graph effective? Okay, does it solve the purpose? Does it solve the problem that it is supposed to solve, right? Does it enable people? A person can be smart, so he can just live with a very bad graph and still understand what the data is trying to tell, right? But can we afford to do that all the time? Can we assume that everybody will be smart, and even you do a bad graph and somehow they will figure out what it means? You cannot, right? So that is what a course like this becomes extremely important. Okay, so you will find that a lot of data science programs are now looking into the design aspect of data visualization, not just the programming aspect of data visualization. Okay,
So in the
so
industry,
that is what this course is about. That's
so
what
in the industry,
that's what you will become, right? You will become a better designer, and a better person who can select and then evaluate and judge visualizations for its purpose.
so what I understood, like you are talking about the core concept, which will be applying at different places, and
Yes.
the core concept would be like software agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
for example, let's say like if I talk about industry where like people use more of Power BI,
Mm-hmm.
right? And inbuilt, designing tools are there.
Mm-hmm.
So then applying this concept, we can use Power BI in a better way, isn't it?
Right, right. I mean, at least, I mean, I have met managers who say that, my company spent a lot of money getting some company to create dashboards, for our reports, right? And now as a manager, I'm supposed to look at the various matrices and make decisions on a daily basis, right? Now, which I used to do using my own custom created Excel spreadsheets, right? I had my own method of doing it, right? Now they've created this dashboard and they expect me to look at it and then they make decisions, right? Now they're supposed to help me make better decisions, but they don't, right? They don't help, they just don't, help me in any way. So what I have done is that after struggling to understand those visualizations in dashboard. I've given up on them. I've gone back to my Excel spreadsheets. Now I'm still working with my Excel spreadsheet. I completely ignored the dashboard, which I am supposed to use and which is supposed to help me improve my productivity. Okay. So there is a failure of visualization here, right? And not because somebody did not know how to do Power BI to create an impressive looking dashboard. It's because they did not understand how to make the representations more meaningful.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the word you said is that, software agnostic, right? I mean, it is not that we want to be software agnostic, right? It's that, there is a huge element of making the visualizations effective, which are independent of the software, right? And that is not getting sufficient attention, right? The people who get that, become better at using visualization. Okay.
Right. Because ultimately, as a manager, we see only the dashboard.
Right.
And many times, like when we hire people, however, like they are getting lakhs of rupees salary just to show the dashboard.
Yes.
Present, like a rubbish thing.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that is what it has been become, right? So especially in critical systems and all, no, a lot of this dashboards play a role in decision making, right? But and then what I hear, I mean, I consult a lot of industries also, not just digital dashboard. There is also physical interfaces that contain a lot of information, like knobs and switches and dials in like
Even in
petrol.
lead methodology, also like lots of
Petroleum, petroleum industry, for example, refineries and all. No, there is a lot of information basically here, complex information presented, and everything is critical, and they are all interdependent as well, right? You'll have to look at multiple matrices in order to make informed decision, right? So this is unless we understand the best way to do this and the most effective way to do it and the science behind it, it will be treated as just some kind of a software gymnastics that you have to learn and then create it, right? Unfortunately, a lot of what data visualization passes for in the field of data science is that only, right? So people will say that, I mean, I worked in Tableau for so many years and all. No? I mean, you go and look at their visualization, they're terrible.
So one more thing, sir. So if I do this course, so I don't need to bother about Power BI or Tableau dashboard.
Yes. That, which is why, I have consciously steered clear of that, right? There is a lot of pressure whenever I teach this course, right? To include, can we also, can you teach Power BI or Tableau as part of the course, right? Then I don't want it to become like that, right? So I don't want to serve one company's product and promote one company's product and then say that, okay, I don't want. I mean, for that, there are certification courses, you can go and take always, right? There are people who will just conduct a bunch of tutorials, make you proficient in Tableau, right? You don't have to come to an IIT to learn that.
Right. So
Yeah.
heuristically, like I was trying to understand.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that, I mean, it's a very good question.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I thought it was kind of understood, but, I mentioned this a little bit in my course introduction also. But, I think this question kind of gave me an opportunity to explain that in detail.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I want to continue this question actually. So it is the true, whatever you told that there is a program has nothing to do with the design. Actually, design we think first and then we write a program to achieve this designing.
Exactly, right?
And one time I was even, and it's contain the most of time it's consume even the 80% time of to display something. So thinking take 80% time. What design will be better? And one time I was thinking to discourse itself to take a data who is replying whom and how to display on the one page. So it took the 2 days to think that how to do, and finally I came with this circular algorithm and I display on that. So, but so the question is here: how will I know that whatever design I did is the better, or even it can be
Exactly, right? So, as with any design thing, right? So we do evaluation, right? Kind of, you'll have to test it with the actual users of the end product, right? And then figure out, you can do A/B testing. You can, if it's something that is deployed in large scale, like in discourse or in any kind of social media and all that, you can do A/B testing. Otherwise, you can do small scale, usability testing with people, and then they will be able to tell you what works, what doesn't work. And you also try variations, and then, with experience, you will kind of know which one works better and which one does not. So I think doing a lot of them, is a good way to achieve that level of fluency.
Okay, got it. So if I do the more variety of
More
questions,
variety, and then you kind of, place one next to each other. There will be always some logical reasoning that you can attribute as to why one is better than the other.
okay,
And
okay. So
hopefully also from the theory that, we are learning in this course.
okay, so after learning, theory will help to in the further if
Yeah, we will
practice
be able to
more
rule
and
out some
clear.
options very easily. Rule out certain
Okay,
options very easily. Yeah.
and later we will able to connect the disconnected
Yes.
dot. How
Yes.
which one is better for
Yes.
scenario?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
I would
thanks.
I would kind of, put this course as something that is not very see, it's after all a, 20, it's what, 2 credit course, is it? Is it, how many credit course is this?
4, sir.
4 credit course, right? It's a 4 credit course, and my courses in IIT Bombay are 6 credit courses, so it's a lot more engagement and involvement is there. But even that 6 credit course, I call it as an introductory course, right? So you will have to do more additional courses, advanced courses, in order to become. So this course is good enough, for the data science purpose that you are doing it. And as you do more visualizations, you will become more proficient with it. You'll be able to connect, like Kumar was mentioning, that you'll be able to connect the dots between the theory that you learn in this course and the practice.
Sir, one idea, like in this degree program for this particular course, we are, less number of people, right? And in off-campus program, what happens, like there is a teaching assistant, right? So is it possible, like you have a lot of students in your program, first year, second year, third year, fourth year, people. So they can mentor us. Just a group of people like 1 to 5 or 1 to 6, a small group. We can learn a lot because it's a very critical component which we'll be learning. Like talk in terms of industry.
Yeah. I mean, we will try to organize these kinds of demonstration sessions, some hand-holding sessions, and Jimmy is also planning some tutorial sessions for later assignments and projects. I will also, built in, so this is the second assignment, right? And third assignment will be coming in next. So for every assignment from now on, at least I will have one demo session, with my student coming here and, spending an hour, going through the process of how she or he did that assignment, right? So I'll pick a student who has already completed that course here in IIT Bombay. So they will come and explain their process and thought process, and then you can ask a kind of cross question that person, and then learn about some of the techniques that they are using operationally. But to think about, like a TA being present all the time is probably it's too late to do that at this point of time, because it has to be planned ahead and, organized uh, much in advance. But it's a very useful feedback, I'll take into account and see how we can, incorporate as much as we can in this course.
Yeah, so that would be kind of great facilitation,
So otherwise also, Jimmy and others here have been doing a wonderful job. They're even though for them also the topic is a bit unusual for them, very different from the kind of courses that they have been uh, instructors for. But they have also, kind of become up to speed. They have become familiar with this, with the content. They have viewed the entire videos, everything. So I think they will also be, useful resource people, and you can also approach them for any kind of help. If they cannot do it, they will surface it to me. Then I will see what I can do with it.
Right.
Okay. Yes, Kunal, go ahead.
Sir, I have a question regarding this assignment itself. Sir, I was just going through these abstraction processes as mentioned in the slides. Like I can see three types of abstractions. One is shape based, one is this metaphoric, and one is grid. So I saw an example for metaphoric abstraction. When we are abstracting a graph or a map metaphorically, are we adding elements for aesthetic purposes? Like, their data being added which does not exist in reality, or how does it work? Like, if we want to make it like, I can see some examples where a few line or two are being joined, which may not be present in the data.
Right,
So
right.
is that allowed for metaphoric abstraction?
Yeah, I mean, it's allowed, but not for gratuitous reasons. Meaning that I mean, it is only for the aesthetic purpose, but it does not have any metaphorical connection at all, right? So, say for example, if there is a shape that is very strongly associated with the place, right, and if that helps in connecting that place or giving meaning to that map, then by all means use it. I mean, you can add that extra elements on, but otherwise don't force fit something, right? Okay, so don't see that, okay, now this one kind of looks like a banana, so I'm kind of make like a banana or something like that. So personally, I'm not very much in favor of using the metaphorical abstraction part, okay, because sometimes I find that it is extremely forced in nature, right, and it doesn't have any natural connection, does not help in any way, and it only is a destruction most of the time, right? I mean, people are getting carried away by the metaphorical form, but then the underlying data is loses its importance, right? So it's a great point that you bring about, right? So use metaphorical abstraction very, very carefully, right? I mean, it requires a lot of a thought, in order to make it effective. Okay, so not to be casually, saying, okay, now it looks like a leaf, let me just make a leaf out of it and somehow find some connection. Okay, oh, this place is famous for this, and therefore it might be relevant and all that. So yeah, I think it's a good point.
Sir, adding to that, like, and further in the grid abstraction, many examples include making all angles 45 degrees according to the isometric grid or something which students are using, maybe something like that. So sir, when these maps are abstracted as grids, does it lose like like identifiability, if I say, does it lose the map loses, like, whenever a localite sees that map? So uh, over like, over abstracting a map, does it affect the way people are viewing it? Because in some examples the map starts to look a bit different to as what it used to look inside of the Google map.
Right, right. Okay, so again, so some of them maybe not very successful attempts. With the way they completely loses its shape to the extent that it doesn't, nobody can relate to it at all, right? So it has gone through too much of abstraction, right? A good abstraction is something that retains some aspects of geography. Like for example, up is up, down is down, left is left, right is right. Okay, or other words, north, south, east, west is there. Roughly these are not messed up, right? I mean, you cannot take something that is on the west side of a city and then place it on the south side of the city and then and claim that I've done some abstraction, right? So in terms of how the space is organized, they roughly are in that area. Only thing that instead of being very accurate geographically, it is abstracted to a grid, right? Now to the question of grid, right? Why? What is the benefit of going to that grid? Right? Basically, grid simplifies, right? And then it removes visual complexity. There are less number of lines to resolve, right? So if you have only vertical lines, horizontal lines, 45-degree angle lines, you have only three lines to resolve, right? Instead of that, if your map contains all the curves and all the lines which are not parallel lines, kind of look like parallel lines, but they are not parallel lines, right? And all these angles, it just adds to the visual complexity, and therefore it it is a load, cognitive load for us, right? So only horizontal line. So this idea of using horizontal lines, vertical lines, and 45 degrees angle lines basically covers all kinds of roads, right? So this rectilinear correction, the correction that we do with roads that are not actually parallel in real life, but we make them parallel, right? So that is allowed, right? So basically that's how you would also relate to it in real life. So you will notice that, people may talking about roads. There is a road that goes parallel to this road, right? Go and take that road. Okay. For example, somebody is giving direction to them, right? Now, if you actually look in the map, they may not be parallel to it, but conceptually we understand that this road kind of runs sort of like parallel to this road, right? So that is still identifiable, right? So but this road and this road, if you cannot make it perpendicular to each other, right? Because that would be completely breaking away. So it is not parallel but sort of parallel, so you make them parallel. That's all right? They are not parallel but they kind of run along each other, but don't make them perpendicular. That would be completely the opposite of what actual reality is, right? So here is where that thing. So you can maintain a plausibility of the geographical organization, the orientation of the places, and all that. Roughly, the axis was also maintained, right? If there some roads run north south, even if it is slightly theta, it is maintained as such, right? It will be accepted. So in the examples that you see, some students have gone overboard with abstraction that now it is completely unrecognizable, right? Similarly, the north orientation is maintained, right? So maps are represented always, the north pointing upwards like this, right? For no reason, you cannot turn it around. Like in some maps, people will point the north like this. Very rarely, north will be pointed down, right? If you do that, there should be an extremely compelling reason to do that. Okay, otherwise, don't do it. But otherwise, no, it just follows most of the mapping conventions. Okay, even the abstracted version. It just is a less complex version of the real map. Okay, in terms of visually how it is presented.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so we are coming up to close to 9:25 now. Okay, it's been really great discussing this. So if there are any further questions, please post it in our discussion forum. And then I will answer it. If there are any more of them. Jimmy, you will be making this video also available to our students who are not present, not able to
Yes,
attend.
sir.
Okay, so
It is
and then
live on.
make an announcement also in the forum so that people know about the existence of this video, so they can take a look at it. I think many of the discussions that we had is really useful for doing this assignment. Okay. So so maybe last few minutes, I think some of you had some questions about the quiz, right? No, quiz is just 1 hour long. It will contain some objective type questions like MCQ, MSQ type of questions, and then there will be some open-ended questions also. So there will be questions with some diagrams asking you to respond to it, right? With short answers. Okay, so maybe the written part will be about, say, 2 or 3 paragraphs. It will also mention roughly what is the size of the answer should be. Okay, so it will be based on the contents of the first 4 weeks. Okay, so just revise it, but it will not be like your exercise quizzes, right? Which is basically a kind of a check on whether you've gone through the content. So it basically directly asks questions from the content itself. This quiz will be an application of that. Okay, so meaning that there will be different context given, different examples mentioned, but you will have to apply what you learned in the lectures in a new situation. Okay, so it will be application oriented. So tests whether you're able to translate your knowledge into a new situation. Okay, so it will not directly test your knowledge of factual information that is present in the slides. It will require you to apply it. Okay, so it's worth 20% of the marks, and at least one of these quizzes, 2 quizzes that we have planned, should be taken, in order to qualify for grading in this course. Okay, so the first one is this 26th, and the next one will be April 2nd. So each of them is 20%. Okay. So don't worry too much about it. You're going to set it at a fairly medium level only, not going to be very hard questions or anything like that. Okay.
I think that's all.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
thanks, Jimmy and Adarsh, for facilitating this session, staying back.
I think Cherian has some doubts. Yeah.
Yes, Cherian, go ahead.
Yes, so you were just mentioning that there would be open-ended questions where we would have to type some answers during the quiz, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, so the quiz centers that we go to, usually it is not easy to use the keyboard.
I know that for this competitive exams and all, they disable the keyboard, right? And you only can use the mouse to click the answer or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this. What are the facilities available? Jimmy, are you aware of it?
Yeah, I think I had confirmed from the POD teams. So they said they will make arrangement for these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will make sure that Cherian, that you will be able to type in the answers. So I had checked. I had asked Jimmy to check whether this is a possibility. See, this is again an opportunity for us to do some open-ended evaluation, which is usually a better way to evaluate somebody in a course specifically like data visualization, right? If we have a very large number of students, like 300, 400 students, it would be very difficult to manually evaluate the papers. Now, because fortunately we have a small number of students in this batch, we can do that.
Sir, just adding to this, like uh, for sorry to interrupt, but we have this facility to enter question like answers, subjective answers. You already had one course called strategies for professional growth. That is a mandatory course, sir. But we had two subjective questions, and those were like 200 to 300 word answers in the TCS centers. Sir, the team scrapped those questions after quiz one because I think they were too long for that particular course. So, sir, if it is possible that the subjective questions are limited to some smaller number of smaller word limit, then it would be easier for us to actually solve and type, because the keys are also pretty, sort of clunky or whatever. So it is very difficult to type, and we have to type letter by letter. Like we cannot type at the regular speed of our keyboards. So if the word limit is like somewhat small, we can maybe distribute the question in smaller sub questions. That would be easier for us to actually type out in the centers.
So when you say word by letter word, you're using on-screen keyboard, is it?
No, sir. We are actually using the physical keyboard, but it is very clunky in some of the centers because it's being used daily. So like you would press the keyboard and you would press the key, and when you go to press another letter, it won't usually respond once, like till the first key comes up, like a key up thing fires. So it's pretty slow for typing. So if the word limit is lesser at about maybe 100 words or 200 words or something like that, so it would be easier to answer those questions.
I see. A good thing that you mentioned this. So you said in that other course they scrapped it because students were not able to answer, and because of this issue, is it?
No, sir,
Yes.
not
We given the feedback. Yeah, we given the feedback that if possible, you can give the pen and paper so we can write. So what Kunal is telling, that is correct. Sometime you cannot go back.
Okay, so the back key is not working and things like that.
Yeah, you cannot go. So if you have to delete everything and then again you have to start. There is no copy paste that you can copy and keep it. So that's make. Of course, what he's telling, if you can make a 30 line or 30 words or 50 words, like 5-6 questions, that is easy. But 200 words, it's
no. What about like say they give you an answer booklet and then you write?
yeah, we can write. There is no problem. That's not a
Sir,
problem.
actually, we have another, like, I am enrolled in another course called Privacy and Security in Online Social Media. So there we are being judged by, like, we are being graded by writing all our questions on a paper. Like they already told us in the exam center, we will be given a sheet of paper. We will write all our answers in the sheet of paper according to the question number, and TCS will send those copies to grade for yourself. So that is
okay. So that
another.
is fine. That is fine. I'm okay with that. That mode. So, what do you think, GB? What
Yes.
is that? What is the total number of students in this
So I
batch?
think around 35.
35. Huh? So TCS give us scanned images of the
Yeah, they
paper?
will give. I think
Okay, so
both
then I can
ways.
access it from here also, right? Directly.
Yes, both ways fine. I mean, pen and paper based
See,
or
because again, I was thinking about, at least 200 word and all that, but if it is so bad, that inputting is such a big problem, and I don't want, and it has basic, input problems like, backspace, delete, you cannot do things like copy paste and things like that, right? I'm sure spell checker is not there, right? All those kinds are not there, right?
Yes,
No,
that's
no.
the biggest problem, sir.
Uh, so maybe just give them a few sheets of paper, and then that can be just collected at the end of the exam and scanned and sent to us. No?
yes, sir. It will.
Yeah.
We can do
Okay.
that.
Okay. Anyway, I'll send you. I mean, I will. We will let you. I mean, we will. We will share the exact the exam model. Like how many questions are there, everything, by next week. Okay, before your exam, so you will know what to expect.
Okay,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you.
All right then. Okay. So it is good interacting with you, and I will let you know about this session on Thursday. I'll confirm it through Jimmy. And yeah, have a good night, and all the best for your assignment submission this weekend.
Yeah, thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah.
And
Thank you,
yeah,
sir.
yeah,
Thank you, sir. Gets great session.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night. Bye.
Others.